Thank you for joining the Bhagavad Gita class today. We are going to continue with chapter 2, but before that, I'm going to say a short prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 2, which is contents of the Gita summarized. Today we'll cover verse 45 through 48. Verse number 45. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature, O Arjuna. Become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, all material activities involve actions and reactions in the three modes of material nature. They are meant for fruitive results which cause bondage in the material world. The Vedas deal mostly with fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. So if you remember, for the past 2-3 weeks, we have been discussing about, of course, first of all, we discussed about the soul, that we are the spirit soul and we are not this material body. And after that, we also learned about how to perform our activities and what are Vedas. We discussed a lot about the 4 Vedas, one Veda which was divided into 4, and what is the purpose of those Vedas. And now here, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna. He says that the Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the 3 modes of material nature. What are those 3 modes? Ignorance, passion, and goodness. These are the 3 modes. But as we go on with the different chapters, when we read chapter 14, the whole chapter is about the 3 modes of material nature. And there we will learn how everything we do, all our activities are in one of these modes or a mixture of these 3 modes. But then we will also learn how we can transcend these 3 modes and come to the mode of pure goodness. And that is where we will feel happiness and peace. And as we saw in the verse and in the purport, it's very clearly explained that the 3 modes of material nature, they cause bondage. In the 3rd chapter, we will see it says, Yagnarthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. That work done as a sacrifice for the Lord does not cause bondage, it causes liberation. So that we will learn in chapter 3. But here we understand that we all are struggling for existence, right? From the time we wake up in the morning till the time we go to bed, we are struggling. Some of us are struggling to satisfy the senses. Some of us are struggling at work, some with our relationships, some, with family. So there's so many different situations. So here Krishna is advising to Arjuna to become free from all, this struggle, to become free from dualities. What are the dualities? Happiness, distress, pleasure, pain, heat, cold, success, failure. These are all the dualities. And what is happening, if we don't have the knowledge, if we don't understand how not to work in these three modes, but to transcend them, then there is anxiety. Why are people so anxious for gain? Why are they so anxious for profit? Why are they so anxious for adoration, for success? It's because there is lack of knowledge. Now, one may say, oh, once I transcend these three modes of material nature, does that mean I don't have to work? Does that mean I don't have to be successful? No, that's not what Krishna is trying to say. All he's trying to say is, not be so anxious for gain or profit. Instead, he's suggesting to Arjuna to try to become self-realized. And we heard in the beginning of the chapter 2 of this Bhagavad Gita that the self is the spirit soul. It is not the material body, it is the spirit soul. And once we understand that we are spirit soul and we start performing our activities with that consciousness, then we will be able to be peaceful and happy. Now, the process to transcend that modes is based on knowledge. Everything is based on knowledge. Anything that we want to accomplish in this material world is based on knowledge. So once we take on this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita in a very systematic way, chapter by chapter, then we will be, inspired to contemplate on what we are hearing. And once we contemplate and discuss about this and get all our questions answered, then we will be able to kind of put Bhagavad Gita into practice. And one of the ways that we always discuss, especially after the class every Tuesday, what we do is mantra meditation. We meditate on the sound vibrations that can help us to understand the Bhagavad Gita, that can help us to make our mind more peaceful. So, but of course, when we go to chapter 14 and of course, chapter 17, that also talks a lot about the three modes of material nature. So it's very, very important that we take on this knowledge and then we put it into practice. Otherwise, whatever work we perform is going to cause bondage, and bondage nobody likes. No one likes to be bound. Say, if I say, hey, come on, all of you take a rope and then bind yourselves, and then, just stay bound for maybe a week. That's not going to go down very well with us. We want to be free. We don't want to be bound. But if we operate in these three modes of material nature, then there is going to be bondage. And if we perform our activities, without that knowledge, then what is going to happen is we're not going to be happy. No one likes to be bound. We want to be free. Like, I want to be as free as a bird. People say, I want to be as free as a bird. So here in this verse and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the Vedas, the Vedic wisdom, the Vedas, they talk about fruitive work. What is fruitive work? It is, okay, I'm going to do this so that I can get the fruits of my actions, and then I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my actions. And that enjoyment is to satisfy the senses, and that's called sense gratification. But the purpose of the Vedas is not just one section of the Vedas which talks about fruitive works, but the overall purpose of the Vedas is to understand the Supreme Lord. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we will learn, it is verse number 15, where Krishna tells Arjuna, Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto mataha smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Vedescha sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. The translation is, Krishna says, I'm situated in everyone's heart as a super soul. And he says, from me, from the Supreme Lord, comes remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. He has given us these three options. He's there in the heart. So we need to choose What do we want? Do we want to become self-realized? We want knowledge. Do we want to remember the Supreme Lord? Or do we want to forget? Based on our choice, the Supreme Lord is going to fulfill our desire. So we all know that we are struggling in this material world. What are the struggles? Of course, besides the daily activities that we perform, there is a struggle. Maybe some of us are looking for jobs, unable to find a job, especially in COVID times. Some of us are having some medical issues. Some of us are having relationship issues. It could be anything, right? But the Vedic wisdom, it helps us to show us how to live our life in such a way that we can remain peaceful in any situation. We can also learn, Bhagavad Gita is not just an art of living, but it's also art of dying, how we change our bodies, how the soul goes from one body to another. Dehi no asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul, the soul is inside the body, it's embodied. As the embodied soul continuously passes from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly, the soul passes on to another body at the time of death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. This is what Krishna is telling Arjuna in the beginning of this chapter 2. So if we somehow the other, try to understand the Bhagavad Gita, which is, by the way, called the fifth Veda. This is also considered a Veda. So if we do that, when we try to understand this Bhagavad Gita, then we will be able to break free of the bondage, if we are in bondage. But some of us, if we have liberated ourselves, then we don't really have to worry. But most of us are in bondage. So here, in the purport, Prabhupada explains that they are, even in the translation, Krishna says, be free from all dualities and from all anxieties. So he's giving us a process how to become anxiety free. And one thing that we need to understand is, to do that, one would need a lot of tolerance. And how can we be tolerant? Very simple process. Hare Nam, eva kevalam, kalau nastev gatirinatha. If only we can learn the art of meditation, mantra meditation, then those sound vibrations will help us to become peaceful and happy. So this is what Krishna is trying to say to Arjuna in this verse. Let's see what he says in verse number 46. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. Again, we need to understand the purpose of the Vedas. The Vedas have knowledge of all different subject matters. But what is the end purpose? What is the goal? If we want to understand the Vedic wisdom, what should be the goal? What are we expecting from learning the Vedas? As 15th chapter says, the purpose of actually Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is the one who has given us the Vedas. He's the compiler of the Vedas. And the purpose of the Vedas is to know the Supreme Lord. That is all in all, because he is the cause of all causes. It is says, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. So when we try to understand the Bhagavad Gita, then gradually we'll become self-realized. And that gradual self-realization will help us to understand who is Krishna and what is our relationship with him. Now, in this verse, which I read, number 46, is talking about different wells, right? What does it say? It says, All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Now, in India, there are different wells, the well which has water in it. There are different wells. Some are for drinking, some are for washing clothes, some are for bathing, etc. But all these activities can be performed at a lake or a river. All these activities, right? So all the purposes can be served just like at the lake, all the purposes of what we want to do with the water. Similarly, it says that the process of Bhakti Yoga, which is mentioned in the Vedas, and this fifth Veda, which is the Bhagavad Gita, it satisfies all the purposes that we may have, all the purposes, whatever it may be. We just need to use our philosophical intelligence to understand the purpose and try to reach that goal. So have a goal in mind. What do I want to learn from this Bhagavad Gita, and what should be the end result? And the end result is going to be complete peace and happiness. And once again, in fact, in almost every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is going to stress on the same topic of mantra meditation. That is why every class I talk about it, because that is the process. That is just like if I have a disease and if I'm intelligent enough, I would go to a doctor, a certified doctor, and the doctor, after diagnosing my disease, is going to give me a prescription. Now that prescription, it is up to me. It's my choice. Do I want to get that prescription filled? Yes, I bring the medication home. Then it's up to me. It's my choice. Do I want to take that medication, or just let it sit on the counter? If I just let it sit, I'm not going to get rid of the disease. So I need to follow the instructions of the doctor, whatever is prescribed, maybe one tablet thrice a day or whatever it may be. So similarly, the prescription is that we do mantra meditation, because that meditation, those sound vibrations are so powerful that they go straight deep into our heart and they start purifying the heart. And then our intelligence, philosophical intelligence, gets sharpened with this knowledge also. And then it becomes much easier to really understand and put it into practice. Let's see what he says in the next verse, which is number 47. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. This is a very powerful verse. What does it mean? It means that we have a right to perform our prescribed duties. Now we may say that, okay, prescribed duty, but what is my prescribed duty? That is the next question. What is it? Just like as I give an example of the doctor, it's the doctor who gives the prescription. Similarly, it's the spiritual teacher who gives the instructions, who guides us and informs us what is our prescribed duty. It's not the same for everybody. Just like I may have one type of disease, one of you may have another type of disease. So that doesn't mean the doctor has, just regular pills, he has many boxes there and he just keeps giving, okay, you take this, you take. No, it's separate medication for separate disease. Similarly, the prescription for performing a duty is different for each one. It depends on which mode we are operating. Are our activities in the mode of ignorance? Are they in passion? Are they in the mode of goodness? So based on that, the prescribed duty is prescribed. So that is what we need to understand, that we have a right to perform our prescribed duty. Generally, people just talk about duty. Oh, my duty is to get a good job. My duty is to get a good spouse. My duty is to probably have 2 children. My duty is to have a house or a car or whatever it may be. Or so these are just duties. But here we are talking about prescribed duties. They are specific to our the mode in which we are operating, to our personal situation, whatever situation we are in, whether it is family situation or whatever it may be. So that prescribed duty is important. So we have a right to perform our prescribed duty, but the next part of the verse says, but we are not entitled to the fruits of those activities. So we must somehow develop that consciousness that we are not entitled to enjoy those fruits of those activities, because life is not about eat, sleep, and be merry. Right? It's not just that, oh, I just need to enjoy life. We live, sometimes people say, we only live once. Says who? We only live once. Let's enjoy, this life that we have now. Human form of life is way above that. It is meant for self-realization, to understand who we are, why are we in this material world, why are we suffering, where do we need to go from here after death, plan accordingly. What about life after this life that we have, life after death? So here, if we come to that consciousness that, yes, I'm going to do my prescribed duty, I'll do to the best of my ability. Whatever, is the prescription for me, I'll do my best, but I will not worry about the results. What people generally do is, when they are especially working in a job, they get so passionate about the work that, okay, I need to work 10 hours or 12 hours or 14 hours because I need to impress my boss so that I can get a promotion or get a raise in my paycheck, which is good. There's nothing wrong with it. But then while doing this, we should not forget our goal. You see, the material life and the spiritual consciousness, they go side by side together. That doesn't mean that if we start understanding Bhagavad Gita that we have to, become complacent. We don't have to do a good job at work. No, we can do to the best of our ability, but we are not entitled to the fruits of those activities. And more importantly, we should not think that we are the cause of those results. So here Krishna is giving a little bit of information about how karma works. We will go more in detail in chapter 3 and 5 of the Bhagavad Gita about what kind of karma. There's karma, akarma, vikarma. There are different kinds, and how we can perform our activities in such a way that we don't get attached to the fruits of those activities, because attachment causes suffering and misery. It also causes enjoyment. So it's like the two sides of the same coin, enjoyment and suffering. So attachment is not a good idea at all. Not at all. Affection is good, but attachment is not. And Srila Prabhupada, in the purport of this verse, is talking about 3 kinds of work. One is prescribed duty, another is capricious work, and the other is inaction. So what is the difference? Prescribed duties are activities which are enjoined in terms of one's acquired modes, which I was just talking about. And even association affects in which mode we operate. So if we are going to associate with those who are in the mode of ignorance, then that is going to rub off on us. And then, subconsciously, we will just start working in the mode of ignorance. But if we start associating with those who are in the mode of goodness, then that's also going to rub off on us. And then we will start working on the platform of the mode of goodness. Do you know, when we go to chapter 14 and 17, Krishna is going to talk about even what we eat plays an important part. Even our food affects in which mode we operate. So here we talked about prescribed duty. Then what is capricious work? Capricious work is that work which is done without the sanction of authority. It's like we just do because we think that is the right thing to do. But then it's always good to find out from maybe a teacher, a guide, someone who can let us know with the help of the knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, whether what we are doing is capricious work or not. And inaction means not doing our prescribed duties. So here, the reason Krishna is talking about all this to Arjuna is because Arjuna has decided not to do his prescribed duty. He is a warrior. He is in the battlefield. The war is about to commence. And he decided he doesn't want to fight because the opposite army has his, friends, teachers, grandparents, grandfather, cousins, brother. They all are on the opposite side and he doesn't want to fight. Naturally, no one likes to fight against, their loved ones. But here, he is deciding not to fight and giving different reasons why he should not fight. So Krishna is advising Arjuna that he should do his prescribed duty. And at the same time, not be attached to the result of his activity, which means now the war is going to start. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't think about the result of the war, whether you're going to lose or you're going to win, you're going to die or you're going to be victorious. Don't think about that. Don't be attached to the result of this activity. Because if we get attached to the result of our activities, then either we enjoy or we suffer the results of our actions. So any attachment, whether it is positive or negative, causes bondage. And that's what we started learning today in the beginning of the class, which was verse number 45, that how we can get into bondage. Now, prescribed duty. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains there are three kinds of prescribed duty. One is routine work, one is an emergency work, and one is desired work. Now, routine work is like an obligation, but at the same time following the scriptures, taking knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita and learning how to perform our activities. It is, of course, an obligation. Prescribed duty is an obligation, but at the same time, there is no desire to enjoy the fruits of those activities. And then such an activity is considered to be in the mode of goodness. But it's better to be in the mode of goodness than to be in passion or ignorance. And from the mode of goodness, it's easier to transcend to the mode which is pure goodness, where there are no reactions at all. No reactions. The problem comes, of course, we learn more about this in chapter 3 and 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, but the problems come when there are reactions. Then we have to, either suffer or enjoy. And also, work should not create more reactions. And that we will learn again in the next chapter, that we need to perform a karma. A karma means we are performing our activities, prescribed duties, according to the Vedas, according to the scriptures. And at the same time, we are not desiring to enjoy the fruits of our activities. Then there are no more reactions. Let's do the last verse for today. Excuse me. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Such a powerful word, yoga. Unfortunately, yoga has a totally different meaning for most people in this world. Yoga, people generally think, is doing those asanas, those postures for, good health, or flexibility, to be able to stretch. Or that is also good. There's nothing wrong with it. But yoga actually means connecting with the Supreme Lord. It's a connection. That is real yoga. And Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to connect with Krishna, the Supreme Lord. How? That is yoga. So here, Krishna is advising Arjuna to have proper consciousness to work, to act in yoga. Yoga means connect with the Supreme Lord, which means concentrate the mind on the Supreme Lord, which is possible only by sense control. You need to control the senses. There's a very nice example I can give you is, say there is, like you see on the cover of this book, you see a chariot and there are horses, and the horses are pulling the chariot. There is a passenger, and then there is someone who is riding the chariot, who has the reins in his hands. And this is the picture from the battlefield of Kurukshetra, where the Bhagavad Gita was re-spoken 5,000 years ago. And here in the chariot, Arjuna is sitting down as a passenger and Krishna is holding the reins of the horses. So let's just have this mental picture of this chariot, where we can understand those horses, they can be considered like the senses. 5 horses, 5 senses. The reins which are controlling the horses, those reins, let's consider that to be the mind. The driver of the chariot, let's consider that driver to be the intelligence. And the passenger who's sitting in the chariot, let's think it to be the soul, the spirit soul. So the spirit soul is in the chariot of the body. The intelligence is the driver who is controlling the mind, the reins, so that the mind can control the horses, which are the senses. So you see, so here Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna that he needs to control his mind, and that mind can be controlled only with the help of intelligence. And the intelligence should be fed with the knowledge. Then when the knowledge is given to the intelligence, then the intelligence becomes sharp, and then the intelligence is able to control the mind, and then the mind is able to control the senses. And that is called karma yoga. That is real karma yoga. And that can become very easy to perform if we somehow or the other can do mantra meditation on a daily basis. Just like we eat every day, we sleep every day, we work every day, go to work every day, take care of family, we do everything every day. We breathe every day. So why not do mantra meditation on a daily basis, so that we can control our senses and be able to use the intelligence to control the mind also. And when we do that, then our consciousness becomes, you can call it God consciousness. Then we become Krishna conscious. Then we become Bhagavad Gita conscious. And then it becomes easy for us to renounce the fruits of our activities. We don't need to renounce the work. Work is important. Otherwise, who's going to pay our bills, right? We need food on the table. So we need to work. We need to work even to maintain the body and soul together. So if somehow or the other we can make mantra meditation a part of our life, then we will see how gradually we are able to control the senses, control the mind, use our philosophical intelligence, and then become peaceful and happy. So here, Krishna is suggesting to Arjuna to be equipoised, which means Nothing should disturb Arjuna, whether he is successful in the war or if he's a failure, if there is happiness or distress, no matter what, should not disturb. It should be equipoised. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavi Hasini Shuni Cheva Shrutakicha Panditaha Samadarshina. Pandita, who's a Pandita, a learned person, is one who is not disturbed. He sees everyone equally. It doesn't matter which living entity it is so totally equipoised. So we need to become that Panditaha, that learned person. And how can we become that? Just by taking on this knowledge and putting it into practice. So here Krishna is teaching Arjuna what is real yoga. So what all Arjuna needs to do is just follow the instructions of the Supreme Lord. He is so fortunate. The Lord is there guiding him right in front of him. We are also fortunate because we are also being guided by the Supreme Lord. He is situated in everyone's heart as the super soul. He is there to guide us. You know, sometimes when we want to do something, we get, we say, oh, something from within me is telling me this is right or this is wrong. Who is that? That's probably the Supreme Lord who's situated in the heart as the super soul. So all Arjuna needs to do is practice Bhakti Yoga, and that will lead him to self-realization, and that will lead him to give up proprietorship. Right now we think that I am the proprietor of everything. I'm the proprietor of this body. I'm the proprietor of my spouse, my children. I'm the proprietor of this house. I'm the proprietor of everything I survey. That is a consciousness that we need to somehow or the other remove. Just like when we water the roots of the tree, the whole tree gets nourished. Just as we put food in our stomach, the whole body gets nourished. Similarly, if we follow the instructions of the Supreme Lord, which are given to us in the Bhagavad Gita, then our consciousness will get nourished, and then we will be able to be completely satisfied. So here Krishna is indirectly asking Arjuna to act as per his instructions, because that will help Arjuna to become conscious of the Supreme Lord, to become conscious of his prescribed duty, to become conscious of in what mode he needs to operate on. It should be in the mode of pure goodness, not ignorance, passion, or goodness. Sometimes people think it's good to be, they think it's good enough to be good. No, it's not good enough to be good. We need to go beyond goodness, and that is pure goodness. So today we have learned from verse number 45 to 48, and we will continue with verse number 49 from next Tuesday onwards. This chapter 2 is, it has a lot of verses, it has a lot of knowledge, because it is it's a summary of the Bhagavad Gita, you know, not, I mean, in brief, but still there's a lot of knowledge in chapter 2. So we're dividing it into different, sections, so that we can get the gist of the whole chapter 2 of this Bhagavad Gita. I'm very happy that all of you joined us today. Thank you so much for joining. In the chat, I am going to post some of the links, the Zoom link for these Tuesday classes, the link to the Facebook page, a link to the YouTube channel where all these classes are already recorded and stored, and also a link to a WhatsApp group. If you join the WhatsApp group, then, so I see that the link is already posted. All the links are already posted. Thank you so much for posting. And yes, that's very kind of you. So if you like, you can join the WhatsApp group and you can get updates, and you can, go to these different channels or Facebook page and get some more information also. So I really appreciate all of you joining. Thank you so much. If any of you have any questions, you can ask me. But before we do that, after every class, we do a little bit of mantra meditation. So in the chat, I have put the mantra. So if you all can please join me in chanting just a few minutes so that we can get the feel of how, what does it, how it changes our consciousness and how it makes us feel just by doing this mantra meditation for a few minutes. So please join me in chanting. The mantra is there in the chat. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you all so much. I hope you were able to chant